You're a monster.
I'm your number one fan.
Now clear your minds. Know's what scares you. It has from the very beginning.
You know, it's Halloween. I guess everyone's entitled to one good scare, huh?
Just been informed that zombies have entered the building. They're at the door. They're coming in.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Midnight Monster Corner podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Frosty, and alongside me, as always, is Corey Peak.
What's going on, brother?
And last but certainly not least, it is our boy, Tony Arroyo. What's up, man?
What's happening, homies?
So welcome back, gentlemen.
We're back.
It is, I guess we could call this Paranormal Month. We will be watching and reviewing movies regarding paranormal, specifically haunting movies, because you can't forget that paranormal can also be categorized as Bigfoot and aliens.
Yeah.
But we are not watching those. We're watching haunt movies. And today we are actually going to be jumping into the 2001 review of The Others, which could be considered a bit of a classic. I mean, Corey, we talked about this.
It's pushing 20 years. This is a 20-year-old film now.
Wow. I'm going to have to ask you to not talk that way. Because it makes me feel old. But, we talked about this. Just a bit of a sneak peek here. When we first watched this movie, we kind of had, mixed feelings. I personally didn't really like the movie when I first watched it, other than the ending. I thought the ending was great. But going back and watching it, bit of a slow burn, but we were actually pleasantly surprised that we enjoyed the movie. So, but if you're listening now, listeners, let us know what you think in the comments. You can do so by going to Facebook. We have a closed group there. Just go to facebook.com, go to the search bar, type in the Midnight Monster Corner podcast. It is a closed group. Ask nicely, we'll let you in. And you can also find us on Twitter at Monster_Corner, TikTok at Midnight Monster 20. And yeah. So, but before we get on into that, how are you gentlemen doing? Watched anything? Bought anything? Any news you want to share?
Well, real quick, before we actually jump into everything, I did want to give a quick shout to all the listeners. Thank you, because I don't know if you guys noticed, but so right now it is, what is this, April or March?
April 12th.
April 12th, sorry. Yeah. So April 12th, and episode 33, it has 445 views on it right now.
Wow.
That's a big deal.
That is awesome.
Yeah. So this is the highest viewed episode right there so far.
That is awesome. I just checked that episode last week. It was like at 310, and I was like, okay, yeah, that's cool. But yeah, I didn't know it went up. So yeah, thank you so much. Everyone listening to on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, wherever you can listen to podcasts, you can find us there. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, tell your friends about us. Everybody knows somebody that likes horror movies. Let them know, even if they're not in the podcast, just tell them, check us out. Join the group. If they're not much into listening to podcasts, there's always room for them at the group. We post memes, we post news.
Lighthearted.
Yeah, most definitely. We're always welcome, for some open discussion too. If you think a movie's overrated and it sucks, let's talk about it. I'm ready to get into one of those discussions. Tony had some pretty depressing news he shared today. Tony, if you want to elaborate on that, on the two deaths in the horror community.
Oh yeah, man, absolutely, dude. I can definitely do that. So I know a lot of our mainstream listeners and stuff like that, if you're not really, too familiar with Italian horror films, we lost two legends in the field of horror on the Italian side today when we lost Gennaro Di Rossi first and foremost. We just had when we talked about Zombie 2 when we did our episode of Zombie 2, we all mentioned how the effects were just amazing, and he was a special effects artist for that film. He worked a lot with Fulci, I think, in his career, and he was like the Savini of Italy. So, I mean, the guy was a massive following. He was a legend, and sadly enough, he passed away. Along with let me make sure I say his name right, Enzo Scarlatti, who just did amazing. He's a artist, like he does covers and stuff for horror films. Like he's done some Italian stuff. He's done American stuff, Evil Dead. But his artwork is absolutely fantastic. And his career was spanned over 6 decades. So he's been another legend in the world of horror. These two guys. I mean, not a lot of people talk about their contribution, but they made a huge contribution to the world of horror. So we lost both of them. And it's a pretty bum, seeing that, and just thinking like these guys are getting older, man. Each and every time, we go and do an episode and stuff, we're gonna lose more and more of these legends in the horror community. So I mean, it's just sad to think about. But I always, thinking about it today, I was like, I want to go back and kind of watch some of the movies that he did effects for, or some of the movies that he, that Enzo did the artwork for, or something, just to kind of keep them on, keep their legend going and stuff like that. Because we keep it going through Medium. Never going to forget these guys. So
Yeah.
that was a bummer today. It was sad seeing that.
Yeah. Rest in peace to two legends.
Absolutely.
Most definitely. So, but yeah. So yeah, I guess without if there's anything else to add, or if there's not anything else to add, rather, you can move right into it. As mentioned, we are doing the 2001 film The Others, released in the 10th of August 2001. It's PG-13, which PG-13 horrors have a place in our hearts too. Right.
I was gonna say usually it kind of turns me off, but I mean lately I've come around to a lot of horror films.
Yeah, as long as that's good story, good a good story, and it keeps us on our seat.
Right.
Yeah. I can jive with it.
I'm so much of a gorehound, but I also enjoy atmosphere and everything like that. So, like I said, I've come around to a lot. There's films that have been coming out lately that just kind of swayed me into like, oh, maybe you can do an effective like PG-13 horror film. So, I've turned completely around. It used to be a couple of years ago. I was like, fuck that shit. But I've kind of come around. Yeah, I have come around.
Right.
I think for me it started with what was that, World War Z? I think that came out PG-13, and I was like, hell no. There's no way I'm gonna watch a zombie movie that's PG-13.
PG-13, yeah, it just doesn't seem right.
I ended up watching it, and I ended up enjoying it a little bit. I was like, oh, okay, well, it's not as bad as what I thought it would be.
I think I Am Legend was PG-13, wasn't it?
I believe so.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that one.
Really wish that was practical effects, though.
I was just about to say, other than the like overly done CGI, that movie I thought was incredible. I really enjoyed it a lot.
That's a remake.
I did know that. No.
Yeah, there's Tony. There was an I Am Legend, right, from the 50s.
Yeah, Vincent Price. Yeah.
So
really,
it was a remake.
Cool. Well, I never knew that.
It wasn't called. What was the name of it? God, it's gonna drive me crazy.
Yeah, I know. It had a different name.
Yeah, exactly.
Similar though. It was like something Legend. I'm drawing a blank.
But yeah, that was he did Last Man on Earth, I think it was. Yeah, that was it.
That's it.
Last Man on There it is.
Ah, cool. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, The Others came out August 10th. It had a budget of, maybe I should write this stuff down, huh? 17 million estimated budget. Opening weekend in the U.S. was 14 million. And total gross in the U.S. was 96 million.
Wow.
So worldwide to 209 million, and I'm sure it reached some international success too, because the director Alejandro Amenabar is a Spanish director.
Excellent pronunciation.
Mhm.
Yeah, yes, I am one with the Spanish directors.
Oh, very good.
No, Spanish director. He did that. I was mistaken. I didn't think he had dabbled in much horror, but after looking it up, he did dabble in some horror, some sci-fi. He's got a movie here called Thesis from '96, which looks pretty dope. I actually might look this up. Um, Supposedly, okay, while doing a thesis about violence, Angela finds a snuff video where a girl is tortured till death. Soon she discovers that the girl is a former student in her faculty. So that looks like a really cool horror mystery thriller I'd like to watch.
Yeah, no problem.
And
That
actually,
sounds fun.
if funny enough, it actually released this day, 1996,
Mhm.
in Spain. That's kind of cool. He also made a movie called Open Your Eyes, which is like a sci-fi movie. Funny enough, I was reading the description of it, and it sounds like Vanilla Sky. Very
Ooh.
handsome man finds his love of his life, but he suffers an accident and needs to have his face rebuilt by surgery after it's severely disfigured. That's Vanilla Sky. And the funny thing about that is The Others was actually produced, or rather, Tom Cruise was an executive producer of The Others.
That blew me away. I couldn't believe that. But then
And
I thought about it. It's like, well, he was married to Nicole Kidman at the time, too.
exactly.
Yeah.
But also, who played the main role in Vanilla Sky? Tom
Right.
Cruise,
Yeah, exactly.
which is basically the same movie as Open Your Eyes, directed
Right.
by this guy. The universe, man, it's this big circle. Me and Corey
This
were talking about
movie-
it earlier, but
This movie's weird too because it's Nicole Kidman, of course, is an Australian actress, but she plays an English woman. But it was written and directed by a Spaniard and backed by an American production and set in Jersey but filmed in Spain. So yeah, this is it's
you
quite a
you don't get more inclusive than the others.
it, right. Yeah, you definitely don't. It's a melting pot of a film for sure.
Yeah. So, but yeah, going through watching this, I mean, had a really good cast. I mean, you had Nicole Kidman, that Christopher Eccleston. I've seen him in other stuff. Could not name what at the moment, you know.
Mhm.
But he has, let's see, Thor. He was in Thor. 28 Days Later. Was he in 28 Days Later?
Yeah,
Oh,
he's definitely.
yeah. He was one of the soldiers, Major Henry West, in
I,
28
yeah,
Days Later.
say I remember him 28 Days Later.
Yeah. So, but you know, this movie like had a very small cast for good reason, and you know, I feel like it was more atmospheric than anything. Uh, I will say, a bit of a slow burn.
Yeah,
Yes.
it definitely is.
I don't remember. As I said, I don't remember it being quite as slow, but being, I guess, older and being able to appreciate that more, I didn't mind it so much because it was like it was slow burn, but it had a lot of moments in the movie where, like, if you're careful, you can kind of spot the foreshadowing.
Mhm.
And so, definitely a movie. If you watch, I think if you watch it back to back, you'll catch a lot of stuff. You know, might be a hard one to watch back to back, but there's definitely like a lot of little things you can catch that tie into the ending. So,
Mhm.
Absolutely. Now, was this was a first time watch for me? So this was
Really?
really,
yeah, it was. Yeah, I never saw it before. So watching it this time, or like watching it and for the first time, I was really blown away by the acting. Like Nicole Kidman is great. She's fantastic in this movie. Like,
yeah,
she had such an intensity to her performance, and obviously it dealing with her children and stuff like that, you could see that the actress would have to pull that out of her, but really she did it flawlessly. It did not feel like she was having any trouble at all with this role. She did it very organically, very naturally,
yeah.
and she blew me away in this. I was thoroughly surprised.
She's a real pro. She's been doing it a long time. I think one of my favorite roles still is Far and Away with Tom Cruise. I champion that movie all the time. It's such a good movie. The two Irish people come into America facing the hardships, and Tom Cruise joins a fight club, so that's badass. So definitely worth the watch. But it's funny you mentioned her acting. She actually had noted having trouble um, with this role. She actually quit during rehearsals because playing this role gave her nightmares, supposedly.
Yeah.
And at one point, she didn't want to make the film if she couldn't even go there emotionally. So she
Wow.
did it, and I think she knocked out the park. So
Right. Well, I think given that factoid, I mean, it really probably pushed her to her limits to where she had to like give just a knockout performance, and she did. I was just completely blown away by her performance. I really was throughout the whole film. She was very intense, and you felt like the emotion when certain scenes called for it. Like she nailed it. So
yeah,
I was completely blown away, and the acting in general, even from the children in the movie, was like
yeah.
spot on. Really, really well done.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And if you notice, the little girl too, like throughout the movie, would make notations towards Nicole Kidman's character. What was her name? Grace. Uh, she'd make comments about her going mad, and like it was almost like
Hmm.
little pinpoints throughout the movie where every time she would mention, she's crazy, she's going mad, like she's her character slowly like just going crazy, because these ghosts in this house are tormenting her, and she's trying to find answers, and it's just like her mind is completely fucking with her at this point, and so I thought that was kind of cool too. Just one of the little things they added in the movie that like I said, if you really pay attention, or if you go back through and watch it a second time, like you can notice little things like that.
Yeah.
Me and Corey were even pointing stuff out like that throughout the movie. Like
Yeah.
like at one point where she kept making comments about the children's breathing, which we'll get into.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. That that was really cool. That's something I never picked up on, and I will say, um, so this was basically a second watch for me, and when we chose to do the others, I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of dreading it because I just remember hating this film when I first saw it. But I don't know if I was just too young to understand exactly what fully happened. Like I knew what the ending was about, um, but it was still kind of a twist to me because I don't remember the ending fully. So that little twist there caught me off guard.
Kind of still caught
Um,
you up. Yeah.
but I will say, even and I'm not, and Tony can contest this. I'm not a huge fan of slow burns.
Hmm.
Um, but this worked. I thought
Right.
it was a
Yeah.
little slow, but I had fun with it. Once things started picking up in the end, and the reveal started happening,
I
I was
was
like, I was actually genuinely thrilled with it. It was
yeah,
it was a good ending.
I was gonna say, man, slow burns always work if there's a good payoff, and I mean, you get a great payoff in this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and
I
I
also
mean,
say like no.
like Daniel was saying, the acting is phenomenal, even down to the caretakers.
Yeah, the
They were
caretaker.
awesome. They
Yeah,
were awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Fun fact: Eric Sykes, who played Mr. Tuttle, the gardener, is the same name of the gardener slash landlord in The Changeling.
we just
And
did that too.
yeah, and the director is a big fan of that movie
Uh,
and had actually grabbed a lot of influence from that movie for this movie.
it definitely felt like a transition from going from watching The Changeling, which we did the previous week, to watching this. It was like, oh, this is like it's pretty. It felt like it was more organic. It felt like it was, you definitely could tell like the director kind of had an influence on that film in particular. Which that's the thing that works for me in this movie is atmosphere, dude. This movie has atmosphere and fog and just the
Hmm.
location, the house, man, that shit, all that shit just works for me. Being like a gothic horror fan that I am, I eat that shit up all day.
Yeah.
Seeing that just fucking, I loved every second of it. There's so many shots of the house around in like and just heavy fog outside, and it just works for me so much, dude. Love that stuff. He killed it with that, man. But one
On
thing
that,
I was gonna say when I was watching this, I couldn't help but thinking, man, this would be a great film to watch in black and white. I would love to see this in black and white.
It's
I think
funny you say
Daniel,
that.
you made that comment.
I made that comment, yeah, because I think the menu was in black, like the little scene selections were in black and white. And I told Corey, I was like, "How cool would it be for this movie to be in black and white?"
Mhm.
It would add just another level of just atmosphere to this film.
I think it would have worked really well.
I do too. I would love to see that. Hopefully, maybe there's a cut, or maybe somebody will do a release of this and with a black, like what they did with The Mist. Where they add this black and white version of the film that you can see along with the
Mm.
color. That would just be fantastic. I would love that.
The only thing is, I don't know that they would be able to because of all the dark scenes in all the rooms.
No,
When she would have all the lights off, the lighting might be an issue there.
just the candle, like, well, not the candlelight. She has like a lantern, like a old oil lantern that she carried. I love watching that too. Just like Nicole Kidman just walk around with this oil lantern, and just that shit just was effective for me.
Yeah, well,
It
Yeah.
sold me. I
she
love.
she made the comment. The reason why they don't have electricity anymore is because the Nazis kept turning off the electricity to the house because they wouldn't comprehend with the Nazis or whatever.
So they
Uh,
just learned to live with it. I think,
so they
uh,
just learned to live with it. Yeah,
which was
that's
pretty
cool.
cool. Yeah,
I like that. There was little subtle touches throughout the film that help explain certain things. That was really cool.
I do. I absolutely, man. I agree with that. There's certain little things you pick out, and you're like, oh wow, okay. Like the rules that she had for, she can't, like, you can't open another door in the house without shutting another door. Like those rules that they set up in the beginning of the movie.
Mhm.
For the kids, because the kids, and I thought about this too when she was introducing her kids to the caretakers that came by. I was like, she was telling them that they had a photosynthesis something, like
Photosynthesis. Oh God, photosensitive
right,
skin.
right, yeah. And I was like, is that really a thing? So I kind of like did more research on it. I was like, okay, that is a thing. Like that happens. It's a very rare disorder. But I was like, no, that's something that had to made it up for the movie. That can't be real. But I was like, no, I was surprised that it was actually a thing.
Mm.
Mhm.
So, I mean, basically, every curtain, if it's daylight, every curtain in the house has to be closed. There can't be, a lot, too much light on the kids, because then they'll start. I think she said they'll break out in hives, and they'll just wither away or something. And she was really, really like headstrong about, hey, you have to, make sure all the curtains are closed when you're taking care of the kids. And um, she you really felt like she was intense about it too, because I mean, these are her kids. She wants them to be okay. She wants them to be in, of course, in the best care. So when
Mhm.
she, when she thought that they broke a rule or something, she would like flip out, and it was just it was great to see. I mean, she killed this role. She really did. I loved it. I
Yeah.
love seeing her, tackle this sort of, because this is kind of something for her career that she never really did before. I don't think. I don't think she's really delved into horror too much. So,
No, yeah, it's kind of a miss mark, man, because she would have been great in other stuff. Well,
absolutely.
okay, let's backtrack here. She did play in the Body Snatchers remake, The
Mhm.
Invasion.
Invasion. Mhm.
Okay,
She did play that. I'd actually be interested in going back and rewatching that one because it's been a long time since I've seen that one.
God, that's another
Uh,
one I'd be just watched first time watching that.
yeah, I never gave it a chance.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, as we're jumping into it, listeners, as always, there will be spoilers. We will talk about the end, which is definitely one of the best parts of this movie.
Mhm.
Um, as most slow burns, if you wait for it, you'll be rewarded in the end. And this is definitely one of those movies. So if you're listening and you haven't seen the movie, turn it off. Go watch the movie. Come back. I believe that this movie is on. I think it's on Hulu right now. Maybe not
Mhm.
Hulu. I remember seeing it somewhere. It's either
I
on
know.
Vudu free with ads or
I
Hulu
know
or
you
something.
can also rent it on Amazon Prime right now.
Yeah.
But if you have, I think it's like, I believe Cinemax Plus or something like that through Amazon Prime, if I'm not mistaken, you can watch it for free.
Yeah. So, um, there was something I want to notice too. I made the joke to Corey that like that Nicole Kidman's character Grace whispers a lot in this movie.
Mhm.
Um, and I don't know if that's just how I'm pretty. Yeah, I want to say that's maybe just how she acted, but at the same time, I think it's cool because knowing what we know in the end that um, they are in fact her and the children are in fact dead. They're they're the ghost in the house.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering if the whispering is kind of like an Easter egg or like foreshadowing to the fact that they are ghosts, because in most paranormal investigations, when and if you come in contact with a ghost, whether through EVP or disembodied voice, what is it usually? It's a whisper.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought that was kind of cool. After thinking about it, could have just been her preference. You know what I mean? Like most women that you see in movies, uh, who were, especially back then, who were like, you know, well into money and, um, very prim, very proper.
Mm-hmm.
If they become very agitated, they might talk with a loud whisper. So she did that a lot, like, "How dare you!" So I'm thinking maybe that was just the acting style. But thinking about it, maybe it's just me that was foreshadowing too for the fact that she was a ghost.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Interesting.
I didn't think about it that way, but yeah, that's a good point. I just thought, for me, because I did notice that, I thought that was like that was a choice made on her part, and it was completely a choice that she made
Hmm.
that made it seem like the scenes where she would kind of like lose it, it would make that more impactful because she was so much more quiet and reserved. So I felt like more of a punch when she would get really emotional and really drive that. I felt more of a punch because she was indeed whispering through the majority of the movie, or not the majority, but there was a lot of scenes where she was whispering. I did catch that, and I thought, okay, well, maybe that's like a stylistic choice on her part, because
Yeah.
those scenes, she does drive the emotion, she does start to kind of lose it, that makes it more impactful. That's what it felt like to me, because really those scenes did come off more impactful because she was so reserved.
Right.
Yeah. But I get that too. That's a good point. I didn't correlate that until you said something. But yeah, now it's got me thinking. Now it's got me thinking more toward that.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Also, could this movie have possibly been influenced by The Sixth Sense?
Mm,
Because it had
Mm,
very similar endings.
yeah, and yeah,
well, when did the Sixth Sense come out? Was it? Well, it was
99.
99, right? Yeah.
So like right before this movie.
yeah, no doubt.
I
I
mean,
mean, there might have
there was
been an
a
inspiration for the ending there. Yeah.
yeah, there was a lot of good haunt movies around this time, like between '98 and 2000. Let's say 2002. You had Sixth Sense, the others, which in my opinion, Sixth Sense is definitely a one-time watch. You watch it once, you're done. You don't ever really have to revisit the Sixth Sense.
No.
Um, and
And
it's
then there
Disturbed
was
Echoes, which we just
Disturbed
watched.
Echoes. Yeah.
Came out in '99.
Yeah, the haunting remake came out in around that time too. Which
Oh,
that's
Liam
yeah,
Neeson.
this movie reminded me of like old throwbacks, like The Innocents and The Haunting, like stuff like that. And there was a scene where she was outside, and I've never seen this movie before, but just she was outside the house and the fog was surrounding. It reminded me of The Lady in Black. I think that's what it is, the original.
Yeah.
Because I remember seeing that cover and that still image of a woman's silhouette outside of a house, and that reminded me. Like I instantly thought of that when I saw that scene. I'm like,
Yeah,
oh, it just makes me think of that like right away.
yeah.
So
Some
Which
more films that came out in that time period was 13 Ghosts remake.
yep, 13
Yeah.
goes.
mm,
And House on Haunted Hill as well.
Hell yeah, yeah. So this was a time. Yeah, this was like
yep.
a little
Wow.
minute part of like film history where like ghosts and paranormal stuff was really popping at that time.
Yep. Yep. When did
Let's not
Ghost
forget the Blair
Hunters come
Witch
out?
Project.
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah.
that's the
Most
But
definitely.
I
You
don't.
mentioned that scene with the
What?
fog. I know Corey had thought that scene was interesting when she was in the fog and she ran into her husband
Mhm.
who had been lost at war. And
Yeah.
I don't know if like this I don't know what you would call it in certain scenes in movies where like they kind of throw out hints like this is what's going on, but this movie definitely like would if there was a scene in the movie that would tip you off um for the ending, it was this scene because of how like Corey, I don't know if you want to go into more detail about it.
Yeah, I can real quick. So yeah, so Grace is at this point going to meet her father in town, right? And she's leaving the house, and the caretakers are they're kind of. I think Mr. Tuttle's like, let her go, or something, or should we stop her or something? Anyways, they end up letting her go, and she leaves the property. But what was the Miss Mills? Is that her name?
Yeah.
Yeah. Miss Mills said, "Don't worry, the fog won't let her get very far." So she starts wandering through this foggy area, and lo and behold, she comes across her husband, Charles. And in that moment, she runs up and hugs Charles. And when I was watching this for the second time, obviously, and uh, knowing what I knew about the ending, how they were dead, um, it dawned on me that the look on Charles's face, where he almost looks like he's shocked to see
Mhm.
his wife, and in that moment, I think he realizes my wife is dead because I think Charles knew that he was dead. The only one that I don't think knew that she was dead was Grace,
wow,
you
dude.
know,
Yeah,
and
damn.
and and I think because if you look at his face, he looks like he is in pure shock for
Yeah,
seeing his wife.
he definitely looked like disheveled, and he definitely looked like he was almost shell shocked. Yeah,
Yeah.
picked up on that
But
for sure.
I mean, it's hard to say because he's coming back from war too,
Right. Yeah.
and so he could be messed up. He could have that look on his face because of that.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
then later on throughout the film, you see him in like a depressed state in his bed,
Hmm.
and is that because he sees that his family is dead?
Yeah, I mean that could be.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that would put anybody in a depressive state for sure. So
Yeah.
They automatically make you think it's his trauma from war.
Yeah.
yeah, that's the
Um,
feeling I got.
yeah, that's what they want you to think. But
Mm.
I'm with Corey here. Like I think it's
Yeah,
really he knows that he's dead, they're dead, and it's like
He's
well, there's
weighing in on
life.
that his family's dead.
yeah,
Yeah.
very
Because any loved one wouldn't want to see their family dead. They
no.
would them to see they would want to see them move on, with
Hmm.
their lives.
Right. Or maybe he was shocked too because he knew he was dead, and then her seeing him just verified that she was dead also. It's like,
Yeah,
how are you seeing me right now? I'm dead. But,
yeah. I think
and then he put two and
it
two
is.
together. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Like he knew that he was dead from war, and he was maybe coming home to check on things, and that's when he realized, oh shit, my entire family's dead.
Yeah, damn,
Yeah.
damn. You guys just opened my eyes to that. Wow, I didn't think, but yeah, that
And I
makes
think,
it's a whole
uh,
lot more sense now.
yeah. And then when it's revealed at the end that, she went crazy, killed the kids, shot herself,
See,
I
that's
think,
the that's the thing that got me was because I've kind of figured out that they weren't like alive, that they were ghosts, but I didn't expect the fact that she killed them. Like I didn't see that coming. Like I just thought that maybe like the Nazis came and they were something happened there, but I did not
yeah.
see the fact that she killed her kids and then killed herself. I did not see that
Yeah.
coming.
I think that's
That's
also why he left because knowing that A, they were dead, and B, that she did it, I feel
yeah,
like knew he couldn't be around that. Like,
Very tragic.
it's like, oh my God, I can't believe you killed kids. Oh yeah, by the way, you're dead. You know, and so yeah, that's deep if you look at it. And
I'm really surprised. I'm really surprised that he didn't like. So obviously he moved on, right? He went to where spirits go. I
Yeah.
guess you would say because he left. So
Yeah.
why didn't he try to take the kids with him?
Oof, I don't know.
You know, if he was mortified with what his wife did, why didn't he
Impressive.
leave her in the house for all eternity and take the kids with him?
I don't know. I mean, he also didn't have anybody like coaching him either. Kind of like, whenever she found out she was dead, Miss Mills was there to be like, "Hey, we're all ghosts."
Yeah.
You know, and it's
They
like
could have been a little more subtle about it, not so creepy about it, right? I
about
mean,
which part?
about the reveal. I mean, the seance and everything like that. Okay, that's one thing because that was actually big in that time period. A lot
That's
of people
that
had
was pretty freaking cool.
seances in their houses. But the scene where the caretakers are just coming slowly and then they're at the door and stuff, and it's like that's I
Yeah,
mean,
that's just suspenseful buildup.
Yeah.
Because they pull a rope-a-dope because they make it seem like whenever that scene engages, they make you think that the caretakers were the ghost that were haunting them. And so, like, it's like, oh my God, they're the ghosts. We got to get out of here. But then it's like, surprise, you're the ghost. So,
yeah.
then Miss Mills is there to coach her and tell her, sometimes we see them, sometimes we don't, you know.
Yeah. But basically, to
Which
her
is a
point,
ghost ass thing to say.
yeah, basically to her point though is this is your house, so you have to defend it, like that kind of thing. Like you have to, drive the people that are alive away because this is your house. So that's basically what, at the end entailed was them like scaring, well, not scaring, well, kind of scaring that family out of the house because they,
Yeah.
the little girl Anne had mentioned a little boy named Victor that was running around causing mischief in the house. So, Grace is automatically assuming that, hey, well, first she doesn't want to believe it. First she's like, oh no, it's Anne. She's being, mischievous, and she's, she's the one causing all this mayhem, maybe to scare her brother, because you could tell like she likes to get on her brother's nerves and
Yeah.
really nerve him and stuff like that. So automatically, Grace is just under the impression that it's her. So she does this thing where she punishes her and has her read from the Bible, and that she made a point like, wow, she's been being punished for 3 days straight, and she's not backing down from her story that there's this little boy named Victor that's doing all this stuff in the house.
Mm-hmm.
And then she mentions the fact that there's an old woman that's there, and that there's a family, there's a man and a woman and
Mm-hmm.
Victor. So you automatically are like, okay, that's the parents and then the child. So they set it up early in that movie, but they do the reverse where you think that Victor and this family are the ones that are haunting the house indeed. Like that's where the spirits are coming from. So I like that they did that. They built that up throughout the movie and then flipped it on its head. And the end reveal happens and you're like, oh wow, that's pretty clever. That's pretty cool.
Right. Yeah, I
Yeah.
like that.
I dug it.
Going back to the husband real quick. Yeah, I was just sitting here thinking, you got this family that moved in to the house. Well, they're not going to move into the house with dead bodies in it. So
Mhm.
somebody had to have found the bodies of her and the two kids. What if it was either A, the cops or somebody found the body somehow, told the cops told the husband, because we don't know where in the timeline, because they kept saying, the war is over, but we haven't heard from Daddy.
Yeah.
What if the war was ended? He came home, found them dead, killed himself
Mm.
out of
Mhm.
depression,
Okay.
and then ended up catching back up with him. That's why he was so depressed.
Oof.
And
I guess
that love scene between him and Grace was maybe closure for him. because he never got a chance to say goodbye.
Definitely could have been. Wow. Damn. Taking this movie to another level, dude.
That's deep.
That's deep. That's a deep cut. That's what they call a deep cut.
Yeah.
Wow. No, I mean, you make good points, though, man. And I think, for me being a first time watch, I was transfixed when I popped this movie in and from beginning to end. I like slow burns anyway, especially like I said, when they have a good payoff. You get invested in the story, and then when it pays off well, like it did, you're like, oh wow, that was satisfying. So I think for me being a first time watch, I think if I sat down and watched it again, of course, there'd be other little things I'd notice that I didn't notice before.
Right.
And I think that's why rewatchability is such a big thing, because even if you already know the outcome and you know how the end plays out, it still pays to rewatch a movie again, so you notice the little subtle things that are happening.
Right. Also, the very beginning of the movie, after the kind of the credits roll a little bit, and you hear her talking to the children, she wakes up screaming, and you assume she just had a bad dream about her husband who's off to war. But what if she's waking up screaming because of the pain of her dying?
I think that's when she woke up.
Yeah.
I think that's when she woke up from, well, basically being alive.
Yeah.
So I think that's why she screamed like that. You know what this movie hits on? Like, so you hear this all the time, that you don't start seeing paranormal activity until you start making a change to a house, or you start working on a house or something, right? Um, I think subtly it doesn't fully explain this, but I think little subtle notes of it is, the family that moved into this house with the little boy Victor are the ones that are kind of stirring up the activity from Grace and her children.
Right. And that makes sense too, because that's like that's a trope almost in paranormal and ghost movies and stuff like that. That kind of shit happens. It's when a new family moves in, it stirs up the previous tenants, and their spirits cannot be at rest, and then they effectively haunt the family that's in there. So that completely makes sense, man. Completely
Well, I
makes
mean,
sense.
you think about it, when a new family moves into a home, they start doing what? I mean, when we bought our house, instantly we painted all the walls.
Yeah, you changed.
We made our house our home. We changed it.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, the the ghosts or spirits that are in a location doesn't like change, and so they start, acting out more.
Mhm.
And it's almost like they're trying to get rid of people. So I think this film kind of plays on that a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, they do the Beetlejuice thing. Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah, I think that effectively can stir the spirits up.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I thought about just to throw it back on the atmosphere and stuff like that. I thought about like how effective the lighting was, and the lack of day shots and stuff like that. And it reminded me, and I had to go back and look at the quote of a Mario Bava quote that he once said when he was talking about, directing horror and stuff. He said, in a horror film, lighting is 70% of the effectiveness. It's essential in creation of atmosphere. And I thought about that when I was watching this. I was like, that is so true, because they're using it very effectively in this movie. Like I said, those scenes where she's got the oil lantern and she's kind of going down the stairs, and it's completely pitch black, and it's just that light from that lantern. It's just effective, man. I love that kind of shit. So seeing that, and then automatically just like, oh man, that reminds me of the Bava quote. I looked it up, and I wanted to make sure I got it exactly correct. And yeah, just it correlates with what he said. And he's been, he was the top of when you talk about black and white effective horror, like Bava was the master. He did it perfectly. So, I mean, if you can make me boom automatically think of Bava when I'm watching your film, you did something right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. Well, I mean, and even like with the fog,
The
being in
fog.
the film, yeah, I mean, it instantly I was thinking of the fog and
The original or the remake?
Oh
the
God,
original.
Just kidding.
it's terrible.
Yeah.
Oh, but I did. So I noticed one thing. The very, very famous scene from this movie when the little girl's playing with the marionette puppet and Grace comes in and she's talking to her, but it's the old lady.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Um, that has been spoofed in Scary Movie, and I saw that when I was watching Scary Movie way back when I saw that, and I never knew what that was from. But then it made sense. I was like, oh, that's where that's from. I never knew that was.
Yeah.
I
You
never
never knew
understood
that?
because I'd never seen this movie before.
Oh man. I
Yeah,
mean, that's kind of one of the iconic scenes in this film.
yeah, and I
And
never know.
the cool thing is the little girl, Anna, she actually, I think so it explained that she actually in that scene had oh God, what's the word I'm looking for?
Possessed.
Possessed. Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah,
she
yeah.
actually possessed the old woman in that scene. So it
Mm.
wasn't the old woman possessing the little girl; it was the
Yep,
little girl
that's
possessing the woman. And I'm
that's
wondering if that was almost accidental.
that's pretty
Like
cool.
she didn't mean to. She was just sitting there playing, and the old woman happened to be in there, and
Yeah,
they kind of connected.
that's wicked,
Yeah.
dude.
But I mean, wow. When I was younger, I think I was like 10 or 11 when I watched this movie, and it didn't bother me. That scene didn't really bother me, but watching it as an adult, I was like, wow. I mean, you're expecting a little girl to be playing, and yet there's these little old hands. It
Yeah,
creeped the shit out of me. Actually,
very
Yeah.
very effective.
I kind of had a little Michael moment there for a minute. I was expecting a little child, and I got a little person.
Right. There's
A
another
little
scene.
tit sucker.
Yeah, there's another
Uh,
scene that's really effective when she's going into a room and you see a face in the foreground, this really really weird looking face, and then
Oh yeah.
she hits the lights and it's a painting. I'm like, oh, that's fucking cool. I dug the shit out of that. I love
yeah,
that.
Yeah.
that was very effective.
Yeah, super effective. But yeah, this movie has tons of that stuff, like really really effective little scares, and I'm like,
Yeah.
wow.
The voices that you hear is like up in the little art room or whatever. Like just little stuff like that was added to the creep factor too, because most haunting movies, I mean, they were like pretty clear voices, you know.
Mhm.
And she's like, I know I heard voices. I know I heard voices, you know. Um, and she started freaking out. And so that scene there was pretty effective too. A lot of doors opening and closing, you know. That's like a popular paranormal trope. Yeah, the piano scene, which I'm guessing was probably one of the things influenced from The Changeling. Um, Still very effective, especially the fact that they weren't just playing random keys. It was like they were playing the piano, you know.
Right.
um, so that was pretty cool. And it got to a point where like they're playing the piano, and then when she gets close enough and she opens the door, piano stops. So if you're thinking on the other end, that man was sitting there playing the piano, and then his door just randomly opens, and he stops playing, and he's like, "What the hell?"
Mhm.
That's exactly what happened there.
Yeah.
So,
You know what else I picked up on, and this is kind of backtracking a little bit, but when she's walking through the house, one of the things I noticed was as she's walking through the house with Miss Mills, and she's like basically showing her around the house. Um, when she walks up on the piano, she says, "I don't know where that came from. That was here." You know,
Mm.
and as she's walking from room to room and closing door to door, I'm noticing that when she walks into a room, she closes the curtains. She walks into another room, she closes the curtains. So she's closing the curtains constantly, which leads me to believe that the previous people that are there are on the other end going, "What the fuck, man?
Who
We
the
want
hell
these
keeps
curtains
closing
open."
these? Exactly.
Exactly.
That's why they get so
That's why they
annoying.
take them down. Yeah.
Right. Right.
But I mean, and that explains it in that moment when she's like sitting there talking about how the piano is there, and she was like, it's just here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That I mean, that right there told me, you know, that there's new owners of the house. You know.
Absolutely, dude. Oh, another thing that got me is when you said that, Corey, it made me think of something. Um when she's showing the caretakers around the house, there's a moment where I think it was Miss Mills said, "Oh no, there's no need for that. There's no need for you to show us around the house." I'm like, "Oh, okay," because yeah, when we find out what we find out, it makes so much sense. That little scene or that little line
Hmm.
of dialogue makes so much more sense.
Yep.
I didn't understand that, so I'm like, well, if they're coming up and they're you're gonna want to see like the layout of the house and everything like that. But she said, no, no, you don't have to show us. We're good. We don't
Hmm.
need to. We don't need to see it. We've been here, done that.
Well, yeah, because Miss Mills explains that they used to
Exactly.
caretake there.
Exactly. So I thought that was
Right.
pretty cool. That was
Hmm.
pretty cool.
Mhm.
But they were there before Grace and them, I think.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. There's a lot of things I would pick up on if I went ahead and watched it a second time. I'd pick up on so much more stuff than I did the first time because I feel like this movie was just chock full of that kind of stuff.
Mm.
Mhm.
There's so much of it, like that you can overthink things, or just think about metaphors and stuff like that. Like I try to tend to do when I watch a lot of movies, especially when they're heavy metaphors being thrown at you. Um, but I'll even admit, like first time watch, there's some things I just missed that I wish that you guys even brought up to me, like, oh shit, yeah. Now that you said that, like, yeah, you're right, absolutely, I totally missed that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm
Right.
telling you, man, that's why rewatchability is so big, so huge. I'm a champion for rewatching a film,
Yeah.
especially if it's got so many deep cuts like this one.
It's not always easy to do with time and
Oh
just
yeah,
your backlog of movies. Like I was looking at my movies today. I've been buying a lot of movies, but I also haven't watched a lot of the ones I've bought yet. So I used to have a rule with games. I wouldn't buy a new game unless I finished one first. But with movies, it's you can knock like some games you gotta spend like over 100 hours to beat. It's ridiculous. Movies not so bad. It's hour and a half to 2.5 hours, maybe sometimes more.
Hmm.
Just knock them out. But you know, um, as far as like rewatchability, like I know a lot of people are trying to get through their collection first for the rewatch stuff, but
yeah,
I would suggest if you're in the mood to watch some haunting movies and you're following the show and you're getting into the movies that we're reviewing, definitely give this one a chance and definitely give it a second watch if anything, and take what we said, you um, and apply it to the movie as you watch it. And I think that like it might, open all of our eyes to like just how I wouldn't say underrated because the movie made a lot of money. It's considered one of the highest grossing horror movies of all time, earning over $200 million. But I would say that it's definitely well worth the watch going back.
which
I,
surprise
I
here.
I even went back and watched Sixth Sense a while back, and it just didn't have the same effect because once you watch it one time and it's revealed, you're like, okay, because that's a bit of a slow burn too.
Yeah, for sure.
But
Hmm.
the rewatching this one, I was, I enjoyed this one a lot more. I think.
Which surprises me that this movie made so much at the box office because it is a slower burn film, and typically mainstream audiences don't really tend to follow too much on the slow burn. So
Well,
it's
this was
kind of
20 years ago.
yeah. But even
Um,
still, at that point, it was the post Scream era where there was a lot of like injected, comedy and more self-aware shit in your horror films. Like a movie like this, that's a complete throwback to like black and white gothic horror. Kind of surprises me that it did that well. It really does. I now that I think about it.
Yeah.
It's the
Well,
time
maybe
it came out. I mean, I know that we discussed this earlier, that this time there was a ton of like, paranormal movies coming out. So maybe it's just the in thing. I don't know. It was just like a small window of time where these movies were just huge all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And
Well, maybe the market was a little oversaturated with that kind of stuff. People wanted more
that too.
serious stuff. I remember this movie when it was being advertised. Like, it was heavily marketed. So maybe it just had more of a market out there to reach a mainstream audience, and it was PG-13, so younger people could go see it. It was at a time where, like, good endings were king.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like, if a movie had just a crazy twisted ending, like, you're more, inclined to go see it a second time.
Yeah.
At least I think so. Like Saw was freaking awesome.
Mhm.
One of my favorite endings to a horror movie. So,
Well, a lot of those movies that came out in that time period, they all had like twists at the end of them,
Yeah.
and again, that's where M. Night Shyamalan, he kind of came about, because he's, in my opinion, he's kind of one of the best when it comes to twists at the end, because you can almost guarantee that every movie's got a twist to it.
yeah, love him or hate him, he did have some interesting twists, like The Village. Like,
Yeah.
no one saw that coming.
Yeah, and I think too about the time too. I mean, a lot of like around this time there was a lot of emphasis on the Japanese American remakes, like like The Grudge and The Ring.
Ring.
Big. So yeah, I mean, it kind of around the same. I mean, this was just a different time in horror history. It really was. Now that
It's
I
a
think
fun
about
time. That's a
it, it
fun time.
really was, man.
And then Paranormal Activity came along and fucked it all up.
Uh, the first one, I think we discuss it. The first one wasn't too bad.
Ugh.
No,
Well, no, I think I was on a conversation with a guy at work about that. So yeah, the first one, if it was a standalone film, it would have been great, in my opinion. You know, not so much, as the movie itself was a good film, but I'm thinking like the added creep factor of, well, this woman was never found again, stuff like that. That right there is cool. But
yeah.
then you know, 6 installments later, it's like, okay, that's a
They
little over.
really
Yeah.
beat
I'm under, man. It's a cool concept. Especially if they're trying real hard to stick to, like, um as close as they can to, like, real demonic possession, demonic hauntings. You have stuff like her foot being pulled out of the bed and stuff, and her standing up and standing over that guy all night. Like, it's creepy, yeah, but I would rather just see a movie where, like, we could see the demon and the demon actually, like, comes after her. It's more of like a creature feature. That's what I want to see. I just think that'd be cool.
Yeah. To your point, I would like to see something like that, but at the same time, the creep factor would definitely be there. Just knowing that something is dragging her out of bed, stuff like that, and you
Yeah.
can't see it. Even as an audience member, you can't see it.
Now, the
That's
footprints
creepy.
and the powder, that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
So, that was a cool
it.
little touch.
It's the only one I've ever seen. I can't get into those movies.
I watched
Uh,
the first one and I was like, I'm done.
That's it. That's it. I had the same mindset where I'm like, okay, I watched this. There's no need for me to watch the sequels.
I got my Paranormal Activity badge.
Yeah,
So,
for sure, man. Never could get into.
no,
How they made 6 so far. Is that it? That's
it was a
insane.
lot. Yeah.
I think there's like 6 of them now. Yeah.
Wow, that's insane.
Mhm. So,
Pretty bad.
just a couple of quick trivias here. The director would actually, to get the kids worked up, he would play scary music when they weren't expecting it. So that's
Fucked
interesting.
up.
Yeah, we talked about Nicole Kidman quitting rehearsals because of the role giving her nightmares. So that's kind of cool. Um,
I wonder if that's because she knew what the ending of the film was about, and maybe she was having dreams about it or
Yeah.
something.
I
mm,
don't know.
I would almost like
Yeah.
to see an interview where she talks about that.
Same
yeah,
here.
that would be, yeah. So this was Renee Asherson's final acting role before her death on October 30th, 2014, at the age of 99. That was the old woman that played
The Seance
the
Lady.
Seance Lady. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Executive produced by Tom Cruise. This marked the last collaboration between him and Nicole Kidman prior to their divorce.
Hmm.
Uh, the ghostly image appearing over Grace's shoulder resolves itself into a somber face and a painting on the wall. You talked about that, Tony. The
Love
image
that
is
scene.
actually a detail, specifically a close-up of the Puritan man's face of the 1855 pre-Raphaelite painting, The Wounded Cavalier, by William Shakespeare Burton. Cool.
I dug the hell out of that. I love that little scene. That little scene was great.
I think even Daniel mentioned it too.
Yeah.
Highest grossing Spanish film, 209,700,000 in the all-time worldwide box office history. As of May 2006, it was 265th. So, film opened up in the U.S. at number 4 of the box office chart and stayed around that figure for its initial run. 7 weeks into release, it actually climbed up to number 2 spot. Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman, they finalized their divorce the same week the Others was released.
Wow.
Man.
So going back to the husband,
want-
the husband was actually an embodiment of Tom Cruise. Symbolized Tom Cruise. No.
You know what that
deep
huh,
cut.
I'm wondering. Here's a theory. So you know how you said that she was quitting on set on rehearsals or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if that was due to marital issues too.
It could have been too, man. I like
Could have been.
when that was going on.
Could have been.
It's rough.
This was Alejandro Amenabar's first English language film. Interesting. And he didn't really go on to like too many movies. Like he's got a little, I think it's like 13 movies he directed, which given the success of this film, you think he would have went on to do more, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Ah, here we go.
If
That's
his
good.
films did so well, because I mean, I think we talked about it before. Didn't Dario Argento only come out with like 20 something films?
Yeah, I mean, his films are just
But they're
well,
effective.
yeah, they're
Yeah.
effective to a certain point, but he had a hell of a. I think Argento had one of the best runs ever. He's up there with Cronenberg. Those guys had a fucking fantastic run, like just
Mhm.
great film after great film after great film.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually talked about this earlier. It was released a few months prior to Vanilla Sky, which was an American remake of Alejandro Amenabar's Open Your Eyes. Coincidentally, it stars Nicole Kidman's then estranged husband, Tom Cruise. Interesting. Which, I don't know if you've ever seen that movie. The movie's depressing as shit.
No, I've never seen it.
Yeah. Vanilla Sky is quite depressing. It is a slow burn. It's weird. But it's I remember that movie having a pretty sad ending, and I was
Penelope
like,
Cruz is in it.
hey, I watched it, not going back. Do I now?
Penelope Cruz is in it as well, right?
That I don't know.
I'm wanting to say she's in that. Yeah, I
Yeah,
remember.
she's in it.
Yeah, I remember watching that film, and I remember being lost.
Yeah, I was super lost and
It's one
super
of those films
sad.
that you cannot pause, you cannot get up to go to the bathroom because you'll completely be mind fucked.
Yeah.
Man, overall, I had a blast with this film.
Yeah, I did too, man. Great
I,
time watching me.
Mm-hmm.
and like I said in the beginning, I was almost kind of dreading going into this because I just remember how much I didn't like this film when I first watched it years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
it's awesome.
So yeah, so now we go to our reviews of the film. If you want to follow us on Letterboxd, please do so. You can follow me at DL Jones 1988. Tony, what's
Yep.
yours?
And Antonio Arroyo. Yep, that's me.
Oh, just one word.
No, it's spaced out. I think, yeah, I'm still trying to figure out because I'm also Horace Bones 89
Yeah.
too. I don't know if it
Okay.
follows that or
All right. I think either one.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Antonio Arroyo, you can find him on Letterboxd, and Corey, Coreyp3,
Mhm.
on Letterboxd as well. I gave this movie a. Let me see if I can pull it up here. I'm still learning how to navigate Letterboxd because certain tabs don't do what I want them to do.
Yeah. It's tricky sometimes.
How did I get this movie? What? Where's this movie? Tony, what'd you give this movie? I'll look mine up.
I gave it a solid 4, man. I definitely recommend it. It's fun. Oh, and I'm also Horace Bones 7, not 89. That's another one. But yeah, I gave it a solid 4, dude. I had a blast with it. I really I would recommend it for somebody that hasn't seen it. Hopefully they didn't continue on with the review without without watching this film prior, because yeah, we were going to spoil it, but we do a deep dive discussion, so yeah, it's going to come up there. But I definitely recommend this, man. There's some things that I'm like, okay, well, they kind of there's a moment where they really push the fact that, hey, you have to shut and lock a door before you open another door, but there's several instances where she left the door open and didn't lock it before opening another door. So I'm like, well, they kind of broke their rule a couple times.
Yeah.
Just little things here and there. But overall, this was a great flick. Had fun with it. Kept me engaged.
Right. Okay.
So yep, 4 for me.
Well, no wonder I couldn't find my review. I hadn't reviewed it.
Ah, there
So
we go.
my bad. But yeah, I gave this movie a 3.5 stars.
Nice.
A solid 3.5 though. I would have given it a 4. I felt like there was a couple of things. As much as I enjoyed the movie, the atmosphere was great and all. I feel like there was sometimes it was a little too slow burny. Um, like they would do something really intense and they wouldn't capitalize on it. It was kind of like a tease. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like they'd had this build up and then they slow down again. I'm like, oh come on, you know. So there was some of that, but that's probably the only reason I didn't give it a 4. But yeah, good solid 3.5 stars. I mean, it's definitely worth the watch. You know what I mean?
Definitely. Yeah, I actually gave it a 4. Um, and honestly, it just comes down to like what Daniel said, the slow burn for me. Um, I think in certain scenes it kind of killed it for me a little bit. But overall, the twist, the explanation, and honestly, the thought process, getting my mind going and getting involved with the characters and stuff really kept me going. So that's why I gave it a 4. And again, with the atmosphere is amazing. The locations, we didn't really talk about the location, but the location is a beautiful set. Just this gorgeous Goth style house, mansion, whatever you want to call it. And then even just the property, and I love films that are set in, the fall, and you can definitely tell this film it takes place in fall like weather. So you feel very cold while watching this film. So it affected me in a lot of ways. So I said a 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
That's sounds like a recommendation on all 3 of us right there.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I highly recommend it. Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's us. Like I said, you can follow us on Letterboxd. We probably wouldn't be a bad idea if we post our links and share it in the group so people can follow along and maybe even start their own Letterboxd. Because I gotta tell you, it's addicting.
Yeah,
If you're just into movies in general, it's always fun to watch a movie, give it a rating, so other people can, you know, see what you rated other stuff, and you get ideas for other movies to watch and check out too. Um, I know Tony, you've got a good bid on there. What, about 180?
Yeah, dude, I've been knocking them out.
Yeah.
Been knocking them out. That's why I don't do reviews because I've watched so many. So I'm like, all that time of putting up a review and stuff like that, just would kind of kill me on a little bit of time. So I just post a letterbox rating and move on to the next. But yeah, I mean, if I'm
Yeah.
at a 4 or 5, obviously it's a high recommendation. It's a great film. If it's a 3, it's it's still a push for, you need to check it out. If you want to watch it at least once or something, check it out. But 2 and above, 2 and lower is like, pass on it. Don't even bother.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw a few of those.
Yeah, I had a couple of those. Well, I have 2s on there that I actually put the like symbol on because I found some enjoyment out of them. But then there's some that were just slogs to get through. So I'm just like, I'll put a 2 or a 1 and just be done with it. Just not think about it again. There's a couple like that.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But like you said, dude, Letterboxd is kind of addictive. I get really excited when I'm through watching a movie. I'm like, I can't wait to log it.
Yeah, I'm actually was sitting down there earlier before we recorded, rewatching My Name Is Earl, great show, and just thinking about like the movies I've been watching and logging them. And then I went on your page and I saw movies that like I hadn't seen in a couple years, like The Thing. I clicked on it and did a review on it real quick.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So I obviously gave it 5 stars.
Yeah, obviously, yeah, that's a 5-star, no doubt.
Yeah, but so yeah, that's us. That was 2001, The Others. So be sure to check that out and let us know what you think. Of course, many ways you can do that. Join the Facebook group, follow us on Twitter, as mentioned at the beginning of the show. And yeah, that's us. If you want to follow us, we're primarily in the group. I do have a Instagram I use occasionally at the PG Frosty. And then Corey, don't you have an Instagram, or do you usually just do Facebook group?
I've got an Instagram, but honestly, I haven't used it in a while. So I'm good keeping up with Facebook and TikTok occasionally. So
Mm.
busy life.
Betcha. Okay. Tony, anything else to add?
Oh no, man, I'm a caveman, so all I got is Facebook. I don't have Instagram, Twitter, all that shit because I'm so old fashioned, I guess. I don't know, but I have Facebook, so.
You
But
know
yeah,
what? That's all
I
right.
do a lot of stuff. Yeah, I do a lot of stuff in the group. So yeah, if you definitely want to get at me, man, group's probably the best way to do that.
Awesome. But yeah, that's us, and we'll see you guys next week.
Later, everybody.
Later, guys.
Peace.